Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with another in the away end opposition preview. This time, obviously, we know we've got Wolverhampton Wanderers on Saturday. I guess you could call it a derby. It's the best we can get right now. And to join me, I have the infamous Dan from Wolves Fancast. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, Rich. It's good to see you. We have some good conversations. Watching that video, then that Sultan of United ban is a load of bollocks. I'm coming out with that straight from the start. That's a load of bollocks. You could be in the Champions League all you like. That Sultan of United ban is a load of bollocks.
I love it. I knew we'd get there. I knew we'd get there. Look, Nick, one of our viewers, he provides all of the intro, so I'll take it up with him, mate. But yeah,
No, it was a
good
solid
to see
video.
you've seen it.
All in all,
Yeah.
it was a solid intro video for where your club are at the moment. Looking back to sort of, just over 18 months ago, whatever, when like Lopetegui and Emery came in, I was expecting us both to do big things with those coaches. Obviously, our ownership have let Lopetegui down. He's now ended up at West Ham. I feel that's the biggest thing for Villa's long-term future. Now, you keep Emery, you're always going to be competing at the top end of the Premier League, and obviously with his pedigree in Europe, who knows how far you can go. Obviously, Daniel Palin's Olympiacos done you last season.
He did.
But yeah, let's talk about the current football.
Exactly. Well, we will come on to the game because I'm so glad that he isn't playing. That is one thing I'm so glad about. But in terms of, I guess we'll start to the season. If we can even maybe go back into pre-season as well. What have you made of the situation with Wolves at the moment, with their start, Gary ONeil, and just generally, expectations moving forward?
It's been a tough start. I think bar a 45-minute period at home to Chelsea in the second half, we've been more or less competitive in every single game. We've had some tough fixtures. You look at we started away at Arsenal, home to Chelsea, picked up a point away to Forest, which I think most Wolves fans would have expected. And then last Sunday we had a bit of another sort of second half blip where Newcastle scored 2 goal of the month contenders, and we ended up losing the game. I feel like pre-season we did really well, but you look over the sort of the amount of league fixtures under Gary ONeil now, I think like we've won something like 1 in the last 14 or 1 in the last 16 over this season and last season. And as much as you sort of sugarcoat performances or whatever, he needs to start picking up points sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and is it a case of, because he does seem, he can rub people up the wrong way, but he seems extremely hard working in the way that he operates and tries to get the most out of every inch of the players that he has. But has he been maybe let down a little bit from the ownership? You mentioned Lopetegui there was let down. Would he feel the same kind of grievances as well?
Without being in his shoes, I'd expect so. I feel like the fact that we let Max Kilman go to West Ham in the early part of June and we didn't bring in a centre half come the end of the transfer window, for me is mind-boggling. The club was sort of putting out the line in the media via John Percy that they didn't really have a lot of money to spend. We're still nowhere near sort of breaching PSR or anything like that. There was talking about we didn't have much money to spend, and then the last couple of days of the transfer window, we managed to bring in the Brazilian midfielder Andre for 20 plus million. So for me, I don't know whether the defenders they had lined up weren't achievable, or in the end the goalpost moves for X, Y, or Z. The fact that we didn't bring in a centre half this summer to replace Max Kilman's mind blowing for me, and the fact that we couldn't have Craig Dawson play in the Carabao Cup in the week shows where we are defensively, that we can't rely on a 34-year-old defender playing in the Carabao Cup because he's so integral to the way that we are defensively in the league. We're being run so poorly at the moment. I feel like Gary O'Neill's still doing well for the remit that he was given and the money that he's been able to spend. But like I said, I can't keep sugarcoating the performances much longer. We need to start picking up points.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it might pain you to say, but Aston Villa, in the Champions League, the Sultan of ONeil. I'm sure that's your new new phrase now. Is doing very well. We've had a pretty good start to the season. Obviously, just losing to Arsenal so far this season. What have you made of Aston Villa's kind of start and the business that they've done? Have you been able to kind of catch much of Villa this season so far?
I'm not trying to be sort of ignorant. The bits of football that I've seen of Villa, similar to last season, you don't overly excite me on the pitch. I just feel like Emery's just got everyone performing so efficiently in the roles that they carry out. I was surprised at how much money he spent on Onana from Everton, but he seems to have started really well. I think obviously picked up 2 goals in the league already, which I don't feel like was his main task really, was it? Goals when
No,
he was brought in. I
no,
think
no.
he was supposed to be sort of box to box and do all the donkey work for your better forward players. I was disappointed that you didn't sell John Duran because he's clearly a talented striker. I think him coming up against Yerson Mosquera of Colombia on Saturday will be
Yes, that's a
a
hell of a matchup.
battle.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Ollie Watkins hasn't hit the ground running this season, but yet still in the goal scoring charts. I think he came off against
Young
I
boys
think,
on
yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah. I mean, who did you beat last weekend against? Remind me.
We beat Everton.
Yeah,
Everton
so I
last
mean,
weekend.
yeah, I think I saw the interview after the game where he said, we scored 2, but we should have got at least 3 or 4.
Hmm. Hmm.
Done well at the Euros. I think that the forward players that you've got are really exciting. Leon Bailey is still a bit of a hit and miss player. I feel like on his days he's unplayable at times. I was glad to see Moussa Diaby go
Mm.
because, like I said, he's a talent. Another wasted career who's gone to Saudi.
Hmm. Hmm.
But on the back of last season's game at Villa Park, I was glad to see Diaby go because probably hasn't hit a goal as sweet as that previously.
No, no, no. Yeah, it has. I think I make you right in terms of nothing majorly spectacular, but the players all know their roles, and we've got enough. We've really built the squad now to, if someone isn't necessarily performing, then we've got players to come off the bench who can, change the game or can get us different tactic, you know, get us set up different tactically. You talk about Morgan Rogers, Jacob Ramsey, Emmy Wendy is coming back to fitness. Ross Barkley can come on in midfield and has done well because Onana didn't have his best game against Everton, but then Onana scores in the Champions League in midweek, has now got 3 goals this season in 5 games. He only scored 4 goals all his whole career at Everton. So yeah, there is opportunities there, and without being spectacular. Villa have managed to have a pretty decent start to the season. One thing that we don't do is keep clean sheets, particularly in the Premier League. So I think that might be an area that Wolves might be able to exploit. How do you see them? How do you see Wolves and Gary O'Neil approaching this game on Saturday?
I'd be surprised if he changes it much from how we've already played. We've sort of transitioned to a back 4 this season, apart from Forest away. To agree, it was more of a sort of fluid back 5, really. The back 4 that we've had seems to start off with Ryan Ait-Nouri going forwards because I think he's one of the best ball carrying players in the Premier League. If I'm honest, obviously Nelson Semedo was suspended for the first 2 league games of the season away to Arsenal, home to Chelsea. So he's come back in and he's key to the way that Gary O'Neil wants us to play. I'm not 100% sure how Gary O'Neil's going to put out the midfield on Saturday because Andre was outstanding in the 65 minutes that he had at home to Newcastle last Sunday. But for me, I think you can't really play Andre João Gomez and Mario Lemina. He played Mario Lemina in more of an advanced role last week, but after an hour, 65 minutes, his legs seemed to go off him. Obviously, he's the wrong side of 30 now. And, it catches up to you that doing that sort of mileage as a box-to-box midfield like Mario Lemina is. It's just all about trying to get Mateus Cunha on the ball as much as possible, really. He's our talisman now. People sort of, when I've been on other YouTube channels like yourselves, that Pedro Neto seemed to be the player that teams earmarked as our key player, but it's all about Mateus Cunha for me. His link-up play and his ingenuity is second to none. So come Saturday, it's going to be a bit of a needly game. It's a social media rivalry at best. I've got no animosity towards Villa. Don't want to see anyone doing well. Never mind a team in the the Birmingham West Midlands area. But I just fucking hate the Albion, to be honest. You guys can do whatever you want to a degree. I don't want you winning the Champions League or doing well in it, but as long as Albion ain't doing better than us, I couldn't really give a toss how you guys are doing.
Class. You mentioned Lemina and Gomez, and obviously Cunha, fantastic player. But I really like Lemina and Gomez in that midfield. And for that, I watched the Newcastle game last week, and for that 70 minutes, I mean, they really took Newcastle to task. Joe Linton's usually quite physical, and they totally bullied him. And Bruno couldn't get on the ball at all. So those two players do worry me in midfield. Now Villa, as I say, with Onana, maybe Barkley or Tielemans, who's in the form of his life, it is going to be a battle in that midfield though, because like I say, Gomez, quality player, good on the ball, good passing, good at controlling the game, and then Lemina's just box to box, physical, and can dominate games. So I do really like those two players.
Yeah, they're key to us. I think the midfield battle's pretty much where most games are won in today's game with athleticism at Premier League level. I massively dislike John McGinn, but I can't disrespect his tenacity and the guile that he has. I don't feel he's amazing on the ball. I think you compare sort of João Gomez to John McGinn. They're both relentless. They both run through walls. I think that's what's keeping John McGinn in the Villa side, because I feel there's better technical players within your squad than John McGinn, but you need players like that. It's sort of similar to Toti Gomez for us, who sometimes plays in defence. He's not brilliant on the ball. He's steady, but you need those sort of winners in your 11 to get your 3 points over the line at times. And João Gomez versus John McGinn, Lemina versus Onana will be some key battles come Saturday.
Definitely. And in terms of kind of after this game, the season as such, how are you? What are your kind of expectations for Wolves moving forward this season?
I think at the start of the season, I feel like it was if we can try and steal that Europa Conference League place and mid-table, I feel like losing Kilman and Neto doesn't allow you to have any aspirations higher than that, if I'm honest. So obviously, we all want to push sort of Europa League places, but there's that many decent teams. I think, like, you look at Chelsea last season, Chelsea weren't going to finish as low as they did again. West Ham are going to go again under Lopetegui, even though they haven't picked up the points. I think if we somehow win tomorrow, we'd go join points up with West Ham. So it shows how tight the league still is. The league table isn't still worth looking at the moment.
Yeah,
four games in. So if we could try and steal that Europa Conference League place, great. But I feel unless our new number 9, Jurgen Strand Larsen, really hits good numbers this season, I can't really see us finishing much further than sort of 11, 4, 12. But I've got to keep saying we need to pick up points sooner or later, because the way our fixture run is after you guys, I think we've got Liverpool at home, Brentford away, and then Man City at home. So the next 4 games are even as difficult as what we've started with. It seems to be sort of November our season starts, but you don't really want to be going into November already in the relegation zone with teams having a bit of a cushion on your points wise. So got to start picking up points. Performances might need to take a bit of a step back over the coming weeks just to get points on the board. Tomorrow's a big game. I feel like as long I keep saying the league tables got to be ignored for the time being, but if we were to get hit 3 or 4 by you guys tomorrow, the pressure seriously cranks up on Gary O'Neill. And after 5 games, it's mad to think that after the job that he's done last season. But it's a results-based business, isn't it?
That was going to be my next sort of little question before I kind of troubled you for a prediction on tomorrow. Like, you've just mentioned the fixtures after this game, and without wishing managers kind of to be under pressure or to kind of get the sack, how would it be on Gary O'Neill? How would that pressure mount? Are the supporters still kind of really on side with him, or are there starting to be some murmurs of discontent?
I think it doesn't really matter what club you're at. You guys would have found it last season when Emery was having a little bit of a run without picking up wins. You lose one game and you've got a small amount of your fan base already jumping to the conclusion that the wheels are coming off. And
if you go on Twitter or X as it
yeah,
is now, it's like
ridiculous. Yeah,
yeah,
it's ridiculous. I
yeah.
feel like the majority of the supporters at Wolves are still giving Gary the support and having the faith in him that he needs. But like I said, when I mentioned earlier, I think I'm not sure whether it's 1 in 14 or 1 in 16. I think we've lost something like 8 out of the last 9 away games as well. It's not good on paper, and as much as he can use excuses like having no sort of centre forward the back end of last season for so many games. I keep using the line on our show that we had pretty much newborns playing up front for us.
Yeah, well,
Last season, when we came to your game,
yes, I was
we
going
had
to say,
Schwalm up front.
Yeah.
I think Brian Aït-Nouri had a huge chance at 0-0 at the Holt end with Damian Martinez save. I refuse to call him Emmy. I'm not buying into this Emmy Martinez. He was the Emmy Martinez that was on loan at Wolves years ago was not this Emmy Martinez. So I'm calling him Damien as far as I'm concerned. And then we had Nathan Fraser, another academy graduate, playing a lot of games on the back end of last season up front. So Gary O'Neill had genuine excuses for why our form was so bad the back end of last season and going into this season. But we've got a proper number 9 now. Tireless? Yeah,
Yeah.
He's tireless, yeah. I was going to say tireless. I mean, he ain't tiresome by a long way. I really like his effort so far. He's picked
Yeah,
up a couple
he had
of
a couple of
goals.
good efforts against Newcastle, and he looked quite some nice touches. And I do think it's going to be you mentioned it before, that midfield battle, but I do think it's going to be quite a physical battle as always. Dawson will be throwing himself about, and he's still going now. Like he's like a beacon. Anytime a ball goes into the box, he's getting his head onto it. He's getting his body in the way. So attitude wise, he'll be there. And as I mentioned, Lamina, Gomez, and your striker Larson up front, and Aït-Nouri, again, very, very good player. So you've still got really real good weapons to utilize, and I do think it will be a physical battle.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's why I'm not concerned with relegation at the moment. I feel there's still some really poor teams in the bottom half of the Premier League, and you look at the forward players that Wolves have got. I still think we've got enough to not really be concerned. We might get dragged into it like we are at the moment, but I think come game week 38, I think we should be pretty comfortable.
Bro. Well, before I trouble you for a prediction, obviously it's going to be a poignant moment for the game. I think we're going to do a minute's silence. I think they talk about for Gary Shaw. Obviously, we've done a couple of tributes for him on our previous shows. I mean, it is going to be tinged with sadness, the game, but I think it's a fitting game as well, isn't it? A local derby, I guess, Villa v Wolves, to kind of pay that tribute to a great Midlands player.
Yeah, obviously European Cup winner with you guys, local lad as well. I think I'd expect Wolves fans to be respectful during the minute silence. I can't account for any mindless idiots. Every football club's got them, but for me, I think we'll be respectful during that minute silence, and hopefully it's a good game for all parties. I mean, every team wants to pick up the points on the day, but let's just make it a competitive game and see what happens. And obviously, Wolverhampton's lost a huge figure within our community this week with the passing of Wolves fan Tito Jackson. So we'll be giving a minute silence as well for Tito. He's one of our own, Tito was.
Well, look, yeah, we'll pay tribute as well. We'll pay tribute to him as well. Yeah. So, Dan, give us a score prediction for Saturday. Are you gonna put your chest out, put your word on the line, and say Wolves are gonna get the victory?
There's a reason I don't do the Sky Sports Super Six anymore, because I just hate. I won't allow myself to predict Wolves to win because I feel like I'm jinxing them when I do. I feel like I've mentioned numerous times during this episode, Rich, that performances need to possibly go on the back burner for the sake of points. So I'm hoping it just sets us up to be strong and resilient. And if we can sneak a 1-0 win, great. But I'm going to go with a stinking 0-0 draw.
Interesting. I'm gonna say I think Villa will score. I think you guys will score because as I said before, we don't keep clean sheets. But I'm gonna say a 3-1 win for Villa. Not a stroll or anything like that. I think it'll probably go 2-0. Then you'll get it back to 1-1, 2-1, and then we'll maybe get a goal to seal it. But yeah, I'm gonna say a 3-1. But hopefully a really good game, as you said, and a real competitive game. Dan, thank you very much, mate, for making the time. Just shout out where people can find you and what sort of stuff you've got going on your shows over the next few days.
Just the standard, obviously match previews, review shows. Obviously, you can tweet us any abuse after the game or even before the game if you want to put your chest down and go out on a limb at Wolves Fancast. And if you want to send me anything direct, you can find me at Sherpa Van Dan.
Legend. Well, I'm sure I will see you on one or two more podcasts over the season, mate. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, everyone. Get your comments in, your thoughts on the score, your thoughts on Wolves and Villa and heading into this game. We'll be back later on tonight for our live full match preview with the lads. And obviously, hopefully tomorrow with an instant match reaction from myself, a successful one, and plenty more shows coming next week. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.